Good morning, everybody. I'm going to be doing this video on the heart models. Okay, we've got a few different sizes of these heart models here in the lab. Okay, we use a few different ones because some of the structures are easier to see on certain models than on others. So I'm going to go ahead and point out a lot of these structures for you. Okay, this is what we call the small heart model. And then we've got this medium-sized one, and then we've got the really large one, and we even have some that are even bigger. And I'll do a separate video on the pig heart or the sheep heart, whichever one we're using. Okay, so just remember, we're looking at 4 chambers, 4 vessels, and 4 valves. Okay, but if we start by looking at the exterior of these models, okay, we can see the blood vessels that feed the myocardium itself. Very easy to see here. You've got red is your arteries and blue is your veins. All right, so these coronary arteries that come off of the aorta, all right? This is your left descending coronary artery here. Okay, if we spin this around a little bit, you can see the right here with lots of branches that feed the muscle of the right ventricle. Blue is the veins, of course, that would take the deoxygenated blood back. And if we come around behind the heart here, oh, we don't see it very well on this model, so let's look at a different one. See if we see it here. Again, you see the blue and the red. Don't see it on this one either, but I'm pretty sure I got it on this one. I don't see it particularly well on this one either, but you're going to have the great coronary vein, the great cardiac vein, and then the coronary sinus that empties into the superior vena cava, goes down into the right atrium. All right, these kind of fleshy flaps that you see here covering over the atria of the heart are called the auricles. They're called that because they look like ears. See it here on this one. Okay. Let's talk about the chambers though. So let me open these guys up. I'm going to open this one. Get the front of this off. The lights keep going off and on depending on whether I'm moving or not. You know how that is in the lab. Okay. Oh, we'll look at this big guy first. Okay, let's look at the chambers. 2 atria, 2 ventricle. Okay, here's your right atria. All right, see the hole here where the superior vena cava is emptying in, and there's the inferior vena cava empties in. Here's your left atria. Remember, your pulmonary veins empty into the left atria, coming back from the lungs. Here's your right ventricle. Here's your left ventricle. Notice that the wall is thicker here in your left ventricle. Remember, this is the one that pumps blood all the way through the body. This ventricle pumps the blood only to the lungs. Okay. On this one, you can really see that difference between the muscle wall here on the left ventricle. Really big and thick. Okay. You see that it's much thinner here. All right, so those are your 4 chambers. Let's talk about your valves. Okay, so we'll go with this little guy. All right, the right AV valve, also called the tricuspid valve. Okay, I always remember that right tricuspid, like ride a tricycle. That's how I remember the right is the tricuspid. And the left AV valve is the bicuspid. That's also called the mitral valve. Okay, you see the chordae tendineae coming down, holding onto the cusps of those valves, okay? And the papillary muscles are the little muscles here that kind of yank on those to open the valve. All right, you don't see the semilunar valves really well on this particular model, so let's go to a different model. Although if I turn it this way, and we look up in there, you can see the aortic semilunar valve right there. Okay, here goes the lights again. If I look at this model, there's your right AV by tricuspid. There's your left AV bicuspid or mitral. Now you can see the pulmonary semilunar valve really well. Here's the pulmonary trunk. So there's that pulmonary semilunar valve right there. Okay, a different shape, right? And then if we look way up in there, we can see the aortic semilunar valve right there. That's going out to the aorta. And you see them on this model as well. Okay, tricuspid, pulmonary semilunar valve, bicuspid, and again, we've got to get down and look up into that aorta. Can't really see it good on this model. Okay, so those are the 4 valves. Okay, now let's talk about the vessels. So I'm going to close this model up so that we can look at the great vessels. All right, so again, 4. Now you've got superior and inferior vena cava. Okay, here's your superior vena cava. Okay, if we go down here, here's the inferior vena cava coming up. Remember, these guys empty into the right atria. Okay, we come to the front, we see our pulmonary trunk, very easy to see, huge, comes out of the right ventricles, going to the lungs, right? That's going to divide into the left pulmonary artery and then the right pulmonary artery. Okay. Of course, here's our huge aorta with the aortic arch and the branches that come off. Okay, the smokestacks, I like to call them. And then if we spin it around here, we're going to see our pulmonary veins coming back into the left atria. You see these 2 guys here. There's some also that come from the right side. So you've got left pulmonary veins and you've got right pulmonary veins. If we go to this model, you see the same thing here. Okay, pulmonary veins emptying into the left atria. Here's our pulmonary trunk. Okay, dividing into the left and right pulmonary arteries. Here's our aortic arch. Okay, here's our superior vena cava. And there's our inferior vena cava coming up and emptying into that right atria. Okay, I love it when the models make that sound. Oh, yes. And then if we can put this guy back together, you can see them on this one as well. Okay. This one is a little bit better, I think, at showing the fact that you've got right and left pulmonary veins. You've got 2 of each that empty into that left atria. Now I see that coronary sinus and that great cardiac vein there, right under the, here's the aorta going down. Now you can see that cardiac vein coming from the right, the left side and emptying into the coronary sinus. That empties into the right atria, by the way. Okay. The intraventricular septum is just the wall between the 2 ventricles. Okay, so it divides the left ventricle and the right ventricle. All right. And all the other stuff that we need to look at, such as the electrical impulse and so forth, we're going to be looking at in either pictures or we're just going to be talking about them in definitions, the EKG and so forth. So that's it.